My name's Don.
And I'm Peter.
And we are two plebs talking about... California.
This week in the DPRC.
Oh, and, buddy, are we returning to a show favorite?
Oh, yeah.
The mayor of San Francisco has decided that the poop app may have been a good idea.
Because as usual with the show, we continue to talk shit.
Yeah, specifically about San Francisco. Oh my. The bad puns are bad.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so the mayor quickly made a walkthrough, because there's a new San Francisco mayor, as Newsom is now headed to be governor,
yes,
of San Francisco, and went, wow, all these people talking about poop everywhere. All right.
They are. Apparently she decided to go to the less savory portions of town.
Right.
And sees, damn, there is in fact shit and needles everywhere. Maybe we should do something about this.
And just, imagine my shock that they're... It turns out if you actually go look at all of the shit all over the place, that it looks bad.
It looks bad.
Anyway, this isn't actually what we intended to be talking about for the first half of the show.
No, but it's a continuing subject that seems to float to the top quite often.
That it does. Needs some good cover-up. Maybe Frisco needs a good flushing into the bay.
Yep.
But anyway, we had somebody request a story today that at least tangentially relates to California.
Yeah.
And so it's getting included here. Mostly because the only stupid part of this story comes entirely from California.
Oh, well then, there you go.
And by that I mean, there isn't a lot of talk about this, but I'm sure if you have been to whomever it is that issues you your driver's license lately, you have heard, oh, well, we're doing the real ID thing, and that means you need a birth certificate, social security card, thumbprint, blood sample, urine sample, stem cell sample, to get an ID from now on.
Right.
So that you can get on planes.
Yes.
Right.
Also, you can board planes.
Because this makes sense somehow.
Right.
Now, in case anybody's wondering, we don't even get to blame Obama for this because this got put in 2005. So this is Bush's fault. This is the next step of the various Patriot Act-like things that were happening around that time.
Oh.
So,
you must be heartbroken.
Enjoy, right? Why would I be heartbroken?
Because you don't get to blame Obama for something today.
Well, no. But, I mean, there's so much. Why get upset about one thing?
Okay.
Anyway. So, the premise of these things is we're going to, run a background check on you to find out whether or not you can board a plane is what that's the idea, right?
Right.
I don't think they're actually running a background check, but still,
technically they are, because they now have everything linked on your files. Like, swipe it.
Right. Or at least you're available to run a background check.
Yes, background check done.
So, what is the stupid part of this, other than the law unto itself, which clearly is not Californian? Well,
where's the Where is California?
Our state favorite newspaper, which I don't even know if I should say anymore because they're not alone in their retardation, but the Sacramento Bee, so our capital newspaper,
right,
decided that this meant you would now be restricted from buying a gun in California, and somehow only in California, if you didn't have a real ID.
Why? Where's the law that says that?
Well, so it's a federally recognized ID. The IDs say, federal limits apply if you don't have a real ID.
So does your regular driver's license.
It doesn't say federal limits apply on it anywhere.
No. But it's still a federal ID.
Well, no, it's not. It's a state ID.
Okay, it's a state ID. You're still
different.
ID'd.
Right. Well, so...
You're still in the system.
But NICS is a federal thing.
Right.
The feds run it. Hilariously, unless you're in California and a couple other states, but mostly it's California. In which case, California runs our own NICS check. We do the entirety of the front end for the FBI in California.
Okay.
So, we still reference the FBI database, but we do it ourselves.
Okay.
So, to take this one step further, I have no idea why you would need a federally approved ID for a state-run institution.
Right.
Even if it's a state-run institution with federal backing.
At that point in time, still a state ID is fine.
Right. And so this premise got forwarded, and everybody was all happy about it, because this meant that all them there crazy gun owners in California were about to have to go get a real ID, even if they didn't want to. And pretty notoriously, if you like guns, you don't like the feds. So, you know, they go hand in hand.
Apparently.
And so, you know, stupid fucking gun owners, and you're hating the government and liking guns, got you, bitches.
How?
Well, because
those gun owners still have a state ID.
Well, yeah, but you're gonna need...
And their guns are already...
But you're gonna need a real ID to get a new gun.
So?
Well, so you're gonna.
So?
And so you'll have to engage with the federal government, and you're
already
a gun
do.
owner, so you...
Already do.
Yeah, but just because you do doesn't mean you want more, right?
I won't have to do it more for all of the hour it'll take me to get a new real ID.
Not around here.
Sorry,
though you'll be
3 hours.
Interfacing with the state government.
Sorry, 3 hours. Yeah. You're right.
Or like 12.
It's DMV. You're right. It's 3 hours.
But anyway,
or more.
So this was the big spiel made, and people carried this like it had some force of law behind it.
And it doesn't.
And on and on and on. So somebody asked the ATF, because they set those requirements, or they oversee those requirements.
The people in charge of that shit?
Right. And the ATF went, we have no idea what you're talking about. Why would you even say that? No. There are rules for what must be on some form of government ID to be able to be run through a NICS background check. And unless somehow your state ID doesn't meet that standard, which all 50 states do, why would you need a real ID?
Right.
And yet, the only time this is addressed by people who made the original argument is, it's because of the NRA. Now, to be fair, the NRA was involved in this.
Oh.
They asked the ATF.
Right. They asked the ATF. By the way, what are the requirements for this? Not that.
Mm-hmm. And that's what the NRA and the California...
Well, it's the NRA's fault.
California pistol guys, whatever they are. California Concealed Carrier.
So the GOA didn't do it?
No. But they probably, like everybody else, stays out of California as much as possible.
Probably.
So, but anyway, these two organizations asked the ATF, and the ATF was like, well, no. And you would think that would be the end of it, right?
No, this is California.
Well, right. But to be fair, we haven't legislated anything, right?
No.
But you would think this would settle the discussion, right? In the world of like, well, you know, those are the guys that do the thing. We asked the guys that do the thing. They said this. The end.
Right.
Well, there are still, to this day, because the Real ID thing is actually kicking in this year, they're starting to issue them. And,
yeah, I know.
You know, all that kind of stuff.
I've heard about it already.
They're writing articles about how you need Real IDs to buy a gun again.
Okay.
Now, do you know when the NRA and whoever the hell asked the ATF whether or not you would need a Real ID to buy a gun?
No. When did they ask?
May 2012.
Okay.
So, this has been pretty settled for a while, and yet, this question has come up way more than once.
Of course.
In the past 6 months.
It's because when people don't pay attention to those other organizations because they disagree with some of their practices, such as owning guns.
Yeah.
Which means they never heard the fact that they don't need the real ID, so they're just still in the trap of people saying, no, you need the real ID to get a gun.
Well, you know...
No, I don't.
You might think that's relevant, but even if you just hated the NRA and didn't want to listen to the NRA's press release about the ATF saying, no, you don't need it, you could have gone to the ATF. I know going to the ATF is difficult, right? However, this is one step more ridiculous because on the California website for the state of California, not like, you know, SACB or anything, but like california.gov, there is a reference to real IDs and buying guns, and it specifically clarifies that the ATF has said, no, you don't need a real ID to buy guns. So, apparently, when half the internet mockingly says Young Turk's level of research for journalism, they're talking about the Sacramento Bee.
Gotcha.
Because I got asked this personally, away from the show, again, 3 or 4 days ago?
Was it the emergency pleb?
No.
Okay.
It was passed to me through the plebeian wife.
Okay.
And I went, look, no, that's not how it works. And then it took me, and I'm not even kidding, all of 15 minutes, and I know this because she sent me the question in a text, and I answered back within 15 minutes saying, no, this is factually wrong, fuck the SACB in their neck. But these motherfuckers are journalists, and we're just two assholes on the internet.
Right.
And this is the argument that gets made all the time.
We're two assholes willing to research a subject.
All of the difficulty of going,
I mean,
www.
we're in the same business of providing entertainment.
Right?
But we do fact-checking.
Right. And, by the way, guaranteeably, right, so YouTube has said in the past they're going to pair, like, wiki articles and all that shit to fact-check what we say.
Right.
Guaranteeably, if they were aware of the content of this show, where we were mocking the Sacramento Bee for having done this, they would fact-check us with that SacB article.
Right. Yes, they would.
And that somehow would be a good idea.
Apparently.
Now, relevantly speaking, I know for the rest of you in the other 49 states, it doesn't matter if you need a real ID in California to buy a gun. But more importantly, you don't either.
Right.
Because the ATF is a federal institution. And only in fucking California could you run around saying that this was the case and people would believe you.
What's California?
Right.
It's the nanny state.
Well, yeah, it is the nanny state.
They're taking care of us. They're doing everything for us.
Yeah, clearly.
Obviously, they're a little backed up on cleaning up the poop from our daddies. At least in San Francisco.
Well, even nannies get tired and get late to change diapers. That's why we haven't thrown out San Francisco yet. Anyway, this has been, if I recall, repeated by some sort of assemblyman.
Of course.
Well, you're going to need a real ID to buy a gun.
Repeat a lie often enough and people will accept it as truth.
Yeah, basically.
Old premise.
Yeah. And look, by the way, this relevantly is how we end up with, oh my God, we don't do that already as a thing, right? When it comes to, background checks or whatever gun law you're talking about. We don't ban assault weapons already? Yes, we do, as of 1934. No, I mean the one with the plastic handle. No, why would we ban that? But this is how it starts, right? So California runs around going, oh, you need a real ID to buy a gun. And in 15 years, if they keep repeating this, someone's going to go, no, you actually don't.
Right.
And they're going to go, oh my God, we don't do that? And then there's going to be a law.
No.
So this is us scooping ourselves 10 years in advance.
Right? So the next time we start hearing this happen, we need to send an email to the congressman in question of our show, this episode, saying, no, it's not a thing.
Well, like they're going to believe us, right? Despite that there will, of course, as always, be sources in the description.
Right.
And, hey, that won't matter somehow.
Right.
In fact, it is somewhat likely that if someone who is anti-gun sees this episode, they will go, "No, you're going to need a real ID. These two idiots don't know what they're talking about." Despite that, once again, the release from the ATF will be in the description.
Of course. We
So,
fact check ourselves, but they're not going to fact check us. Like, no, you don't agree with my political slant, so fuck you.
right, you're just wrong.
No, we're not. It's either 5 plus 5 does in fact equal 10, or it does not.
Well, the correct answer there is shut up.
Right.
And in your silence, let's talk about who should pay for California lighting on fire. Because apparently we're debating that now. And we're debating that because someone took a look at what causes the big fires in California, and they went, one of the 3 leading causes is downed power lines.
Oh?
And
what's causing these downed power lines?
Well, storms and the various reasons you get down, people hitting them.
So natural and idiot disasters?
Yeah, basically. Right. And those things, once a power line is down, if it arcs through dry brush or whatever, then you get a fire. Or even not so dry brush, depending on what line we're talking about, right?
Right.
And so this has prompted the discussion of, well, if it's down power lines, who actually pays for it when the power line goes down?
Apparently the drunk that hit the pole...
Well, that would be a good start, but you can't get blood out of a turnip.
Or Mother Nature. As she's knocking down the power lines.
Yeah. Now, speaking of blood out of a turnip, you might have a very direct comparison there, as you could just walk a turnip into court and be like, I'm suing that.
Right.
So, since you can't get money out of those places, at least not enough to cover half the state being lit on fire.
Right.
The question then is, who can we get money out of? And that is really the question.
Right. Who can we make pay for this? That's not us.
Well, yeah, and sort of. But only sort of, because that is the ridiculousness going on here. Because the argument is, well, and the way that it is right now, well, the power companies should at least do something about this, right? I mean, if it wasn't for their power line, then this never could have happened.
Yeah, they fixed the fucking line so it doesn't keep happening.
Yeah, but that didn't stop the fire, right? Well, so, therefore, that is the follow-on point.
And they readily maintain the lines.
This seems reasonable, right? Which they are already presumptively required to do.
Right.
Well, so what happens when one actually goes down and lights half the state on fire? Well, then who pays for it?
Well, apparently the state.
Well, no, right now. The power companies pay for it.
Why?
Because it's their power line.
Oh, but they can't control nature or a drunk.
Shut up. I mean...
give them the authority to control drunk driving, sure.
Well, so they should have something... and it's not so much the drunks that they're worried about here. It's usually storm comes through, rips off a power line.
All right.
Like, so by orders of magnitude, it's that more often than anything else.
So then, back to they need to control Mother Nature somehow.
Well,
can they control
the answer from the state thus far has been, you should have done more to make sure that line didn't go out. Because brand new lines do not tend, by any stretch, to fall, even in fairly heavy storms.
Okay.
So
only old lines are doing this?
That's sort of the argument.
Okay.
Now, I don't know specifically how true that is.
How old was a line that fell? Did they bother gauging ages when they were doing this study?
Well, so there's no study. Come on now, we don't do that.
Then how did they come up with the number?
Well, so where was it? Alameda fire, right? Was those power lines and towers have been there since like the 70s.
Okay. So
they're old now, and so that line dropped because they're old and hadn't been maintained well enough, according to the state, and therefore I think it's PG&E should be on the hook for boatloads of money.
Okay. Is there some sort of requirement that they have to change out the lines every so often?
Not really. There's you must do a reasonable amount to ensure this doesn't happen.
Well, maybe replacing the lines every so many years, yeah, I can see that.
Well, and look, they do, right? And we all bitch about it. And we all know when it happens because they shut down roads and they are running power line down the side of them. And so they do. And the question is, how much? And the only reason that's a question is because we have, as a state, mandated that your ability to charge for electricity must be within this band. Right? And so they don't make enough money to replace all the lines every year. Even if they did, that probably wouldn't happen. Right? But furthermore, they are now financially on the hook when something goes wrong, and they can't raise their rates to compensate for that. So the question is, where is this money coming from?
Right.
And the answer is nowhere. And I mean quite literally, nowhere.
Right.
Because there's some power company that doesn't matter, is in Southern California, got sued for this shit. Got told by the state, you're paying for it. And they said, well, we have to raise rates. There's literally no money to give them. You have all of this regulation shit that I have to do. And if I don't do at least some of it, then you're going to fine me, definitively. But even if you don't fine me, there's going to be another fire because I can't replace all this shit. But at the same time, I have to pay out like the entire annual income of this, this power company every single year to this fire that got started in 2005.
Right.
You can't spend $1 twice.
Nope.
So therein was that's kind of a good point. So who is on the hook for this? And in the absolute brilliance of this state, as opposed to saying, what we're going to do is go, all right, just power companies, figure it out. Let's just start cutting the regs, right? And you figure it out. You're on the hook for wildfires, unless you can prove that it's not your fault somehow, like drunk driver hits it. That's not your fault. But, if it's just wear and tear and that caused your shit to fall down and start a fire, that's your fault. Because you were negligent. Now, this is how it would work in any reasonable, rational place, which is why that's not how it works here.
Right.
Instead of doing that, we went, we should have the state of California pay for this.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, we're not sure how that's going to happen, but we're basically going to turn the state of California into the state bank of California into fire insurance for the whole state.
Okay.
Because reasons.
Right.
And so what does this mean, by the way? And all they have to do to qualify for this is they come up with a plan. And they talk to the state and they go, look, this is the plan of what we're going to do to keep our infrastructure, functionally safe. Anything not addressed in that plan, anything, if the power company has done anything on that subject, it is presumptively preventative and they are alleviated from financial problems. Thank you. Obligations of any kind.
Okay.
So, to be clear, if you report a down power line that wasn't in the maintenance schedule or a waving power line, and someone goes out there with a roll of duct tape and goes, shh, they did something and are now alleviated from financial obligation.
Okay.
At least as this is currently being discussed, because it is literally if they did anything. Now, truth be told, anything encompasses a lot more than duct tape, so they might not have to go that far.
Right.
They might have just documented it as needed for repair.
Yep.
Which is a thing.
Yep. Oh, yeah, we need to fix that.
And so being as that's the case, the state of California will be paying for everything, right?
Right.
From this point forward.
Kind of like they already do?
Well, no, because again, company already owes all this money, right?
Right.
So I have no idea if it would be retroactive and save them, but in the future, it will just be that the state just pays for it.
Okay.
And that's the end of that. So if there is a shitty little company in, I don't know, Southern California somewhere that really just runs open lines across the ground, right? And, I don't know, doesn't maintain them ever for any reason, period. And half of Southern California lights on fire for that. But every step of the way, they documented, oh, this is a problem. Maybe we should stop doing it. Then the state of California will keep paying for them to have the shittiest infrastructure you possibly could.
Right.
And not do anything about it.
Right.
I mean, go California. I know. Incentive structures are a totally foreign concept to California.
Well, right now is where we start hoping beyond hope that they will see this particular flaw in the proposed plan and come and figure out a way to shore that up.
And that's the end of our show for the day.
That's right. It's taco time.
However, before we go, we'd appreciate it if you shared us around.
You can find us on YouTube,
BitChute,
Facebook,
Twitter,
Patreon,
and Maker Support.
Thanks for stopping by.